Hi, T. Carlson here, and today we're going back in time and looking at an early film from George Lucas. George Lucas, despite being an esteemed filmmaker, has only directed 6 feature films, 4 Star Wars films, THX 1138, and the movie we're going to look at today, American Graffiti, which is making its 4K debut. This was the only film ever directed by George Lucas that was not part of the science fiction genre. Now, this disc is getting very bad reviews across the board, but Best Buy had a screaming deal on this where the Steelbook was actually priced lower than the regular edition, so I figured I'd go ahead and take the plunge anyway. I mean, how bad could it be? Not to mention this is one of my favorite movies of all time. Anyway, I'm going to unbox this release and I will share my opinions. There's our cover art. You got the top of the backing card right there. Got our main characters there, of course, some of the cars and Mel's Drive-In in the background. That looks very nice. There's the spine of the Steelbook. Back of the backing card with all our pertinent info and some photos from the film. Under the backing card, we've got the Mel's Drive-In sign. That looks very cool. We do have a digital code of the film, the back of which has ads for other Universal Home Entertainment 4K releases. We get 2 discs here. We get a Blu-ray disc, which is actually identical to the previously released Blu-ray of the film. And then we get our 4K disc, which has the classic artwork, and I really do like the way that looks. Underneath both of those discs and the digital code, we get a nice photo montage of various elements from the film. And I'll read the description of the movie as follows from the backing card. Where were you in '62? From director George Lucas and producer Francis Ford Coppola, American Graffiti is a classic coming-of-age story set against the 1960s backdrop of hot rods, drive-ins, and rock and roll. Starring Ron Howard, Richard Dreyfuss, Harrison Ford, Cindy Williams, Mackenzie Phillips, and Suzanne Summers in their breakout roles, this nostalgic look back follows a group of teenagers as they cruise the streets on their last summer night before college. Nominated for 5 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director, American Graffiti features the howling sounds of Wolfman Jack and an unforgettable soundtrack with songs by Buddy Holly, Chuck Berry, the Beach Boys, and Bill Haley and his Comets. The tagline for American Graffiti's ad campaign, of course, was, "Where were you in '62?" My answer to that question is, I wasn't alive yet. I wasn't born until 1984, but I've always been fascinated by American culture of the past, in particular that late 50s, early 60s, cruising culture with teenagers, the cars, the looks, the music. It's a fascinating era, and I don't think anyone has ever captured that better than George Lucas did in American Graffiti, which of course was his sophomore directorial effort, and his only directorial effort that was not a part of the science fiction genre. There's a who's who of actors here who are just starting their careers. Of course, we have Ron Howard as one of the main kids getting ready to go off to college after he graduated. I believe this was the last time he was ever credited as Ronnie Howard, which is what he'd been called when he was on the Andy Griffith Show several years prior. Several years later, of course, Ron Howard would go on to be a successful director, helming movies like Backdraft, Apollo 13, and countless others. And then one of his best friends is portrayed by Richard Dreyfuss, and the two of them, of course, are conflicted as to whether they should leave town and go off to college or if they should stay in the city and embrace what they have there. And you get a lot of great supporting cast members, including Paul Lamont, who's a drag racer, aging, but very set in his ways. A young Mackenzie Phillips, who portrays the young girl that he ends up taking around most of the night. Harrison Ford as a seldom-seen drag racer, who of course wants to challenge the fastest rod in the valley. Charles Martin Smith as Toad, a very awkward young man who's enthralled when he gets to borrow a car. And of course, Charles Martin Smith would go on to a successful career as a director, directing everything from Trick or Treat to Air Bud. The list goes on. We even get a cameo appearance by legendary disc jockey Wolfman Jack. Everyone in the movie just plays their roles perfectly, and the production quality here is second to none. The classic cars, the music. This movie, of course, was one of the first major Hollywood motion pictures that primarily featured old music as its soundtrack instead of just having like newly recorded songs, and that's sort of become an industry standard for a lot of other directors, including Martin Scorsese and Quentin Tarantino. A lot of the developments here really speak for themselves. It's a very touching coming-of-age story, but at times it's laugh-out-loud funny. It's the very definition of a comedy drama, and it's done quite well. A few years ago, I actually went down to Hollywood for the Rock Gods Hall of Fame Awards because, if you don't know, I also write a lot of music reviews as well, in addition to doing the YouTube channel. And when I was down there, being a fan of American Graffiti, one of the things I wanted to do more than anything was go and eat at a Mel's Drive-In, and I certainly did that. I may very well have had the best milkshake I've ever had in my life. And if I ever get back to California and there's a place that has Mel's Drive-Ins, I will be there, no questions asked. Again, American Graffiti is a great film from George Lucas, and it is a shame this one was sort of overshadowed by the rise of Star Wars in later years, because it's a great film and probably the most truest and down-to-earth film Lucas ever made, being semi-autobiographical and all that. Unfortunately, here we get to the not-so-pleasant news. American Graffiti on 4K does not look good. All of the negative comments you read online are correct. They've used noise reduction, they've softened this, they've removed film grain. Put it simply, it just looks bad. The whole image, there's pretty much no grain to speak of, no detail, no vibrant colors. I mean, the HDR maybe gives the colors a little bit of a punch, but if there's no detail to start with, I mean, what's the point? This includes the older Blu-ray copy of the film. The older Blu-ray copy looks better than the 4K disc, and that disc never even really got that good of reviews. So, unfortunately, the picture quality really is what ruins this release. This is how not to release a classic film on the 4K Ultra High Def format. As far as bonus features go, we get the same assortment that's on the Blu-ray disc, including a commentary track, a making-of featurette, screen tests, and of course a theatrical trailer. So I have to say, unless you're like the biggest fan of the movie there is, or you're like a devout Steelbook collector, steer clear of this release. Just stick with your existing Blu-ray copy. It looks better than the 4K, and you're gaining absolutely nothing by purchasing this release, except for a pretty snazzy looking Steelbook, but even that I don't really think justifies the cost of the purchase, especially if you already own it on Blu-ray. So I am going to have to give this one a big thumbs down. American Graffiti can look a lot better than this. I hope one of the boutique labels get their hands on this film because it deserves the real treatment, and it has not been given that here. And this is a major drop of the ball because most of Universal's 4K releases look absolutely beautiful. I mean, look at the Universal Monsters collections. Look at the Alfred Hitchcock collections. They look amazing. I don't know where or how the ball was dropped here, but avoid this one. Stick with your Blu-ray. Are you a fan of American Graffiti? Do you think it's one of the best coming-of-age films depicting the late 50s, early 60s cruising culture? Do you think it's George Lucas's best film? Are you actually going to buy the 4K? Comment down below and let me know what you think. Also, remember to subscribe to this channel for more content, as I'm always posting new videos, and make sure you give this one a like if you found it helpful. I'm Taylor T. Carlson. I'll see you next time.